Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70mm, a podcast for film lovers. Every Monday, I'm joined by famous artist Danny Haas. And spiritual advisor Protolexis.
Was I shopping for white robes on Amazon?
And together as friends forever, we discuss recently watched movies. Later in this episode, we complete our lean journey by covering Lawrence of Arabia from 1962. Is it the greatest movie ever made? Do I literally start crying talking about the 4K UHD restoration? Let's find out now. I gotta start off the show reading a quote from a review. This is for Lawrence of Arabia. We're gonna be covering the bottom of the hour. This comes from Protolexis on Lawrence of Arabia. Quote, am I getting a restraining order on Alec Guinness? I can't. Oh my God. That's maybe like my all-time favorite Letterboxd review for a movie. I mean, were we mentally prepared for the journey we would go on with Alec Guinness?
No.
During this lean journey? Has it ever been done, Proto?
I had no idea what we were getting into. I had no idea. I mean, all I knew Alec
People
Guinness
all
was
talk about
from
it.
Star
This
Wars.
is not-
That's all I knew. No.
This is the biggest secret in the history of Hollywood. We'll get into it at our Lawrence of Arabia segment later in this show. Danny's pick for the month will be happening later too. There's been a lot of buzz in Discord about what movie Danny's going to pick. He can pick whatever movie he wants for next week. There's no theme. He can right or wrong if he wants to. He can pick a musical. He can pick an animated movie. How do you feel, Danny? You're announcing your pick probably in an hour from now.
I feel okay about it. I almost pivoted tonight in Discord chatting pre-show. They brought up Signs. And man, I want to watch Signs. I just really do.
Man, it needs to be done.
You know? Am I going to pivot before the end of this show?
Holy cow.
Stay
How about
tuned.
that scene where they're flashing back
My God.
and you just look at Mel's eyes in that moment?
It came up because I saw a trailer for his new movie. Have you seen this?
Olds.
That looks incredible.
I was forced to see a trailer when James and I went to see F9. I'm on a sabbatical from trailers, so I had to sit there and
I heard
It looks good, though.
I heard an alternate title for that was going to be Garbage.
I think it looks pretty cool, though.
Proto's firing on all cylinders tonight. All cylinders.
Really feeling himself.
If you're listening to this in your Spotify, your Apple, your Pocket Cast, and you're not a patron of 70mm, you missed out on a Hercules episode. Thanks to our dear friend and heart and soul of the VHS Village, Marcy, who chose that movie for us to do. And you can listen to that in the Spotify app. You can unlock that or go to patreon.com/70mm. $4 a month. Uncut eps, exclusive eps, and more importantly, join the VHS Village Discord. Got some new friends this week. Pat, Josh, Tyler, Barrett, Raymond, Renee, and Christian. And if people are keeping score for the road to Harry Potter 200, I think we're around 163-ish. Yeah, Grugux.
So close.
Grugux
Getting
wrote
there.
it down before the first of the month Patreon decline charges kick in, and we lose like 20 people at the beginning of every month. So we're close. Real close.
I can smell the butterbeer already.
Oh, baby.
There he is. Jay Carp just posted our sweet Prince Fizier, Alec Guinness, in chat right now. Pardo, did you watch any movies this week?
I did. I think I mentioned this in our DMs. I had a rare moment where I didn't have to watch a movie for a show, read a book for a show, do anything. I could just sit down, pick any movie I wanted to watch. And I picked a movie called Manos, which is a movie that came out in 2019. And I remember I think I saw a clip of this. I think it might have been nominated for Best Foreign Film at the Oscars, because I remember seeing clips of this. I think it was at the Oscars. And I was intrigued by it. And it's a story of these rebels. I think it's supposed to be set in South America. But a group of rebels, there's about 8 of them, and they're all teenagers, and they have this task. They're in like the middle of the jungle, a task to guard a U.S. citizen as a prisoner. She's being held hostage. So that's their job, and they're on their own. One of them's the leader, and they have to guard this prisoner. And then they have like this commanding officer who would come and like visit them, and make sure that they're like doing what they need to do. It's basically like a Lord of the Flies story. Mm-hmm. If you've read that or familiar with that story. But I was, this movie is so gorgeous. Like the setting where it's at, like amazing landscape shots of the surrounding area, and then just the story it tells. There's a good amount of dialogue, but it's not. There's not like a ton for you to get familiar with the characters. But of these like 8 teenagers that are in it, they all feel like that, like their story is told, and then there's just like beautiful like layered meaning between them and like their relationships. And I was just like, it was just like an amazing time. I was totally like immersed in this world. And I loved it. So I gave it 5 stars. It was, and I put it in my,
top 4.
I replaced it in it replaced Metropolis as my favorite movie that I've watched this year for the first time. So this is now sitting in my top 4. I really, really love this movie.
Excuse me.
So my highest recommendation.
Excuse me.
You're excused.
I have like 10 movies on my watch list, and this is one of them. I've had it on there for a while. The poster alone grabbed my attention, and the trailer is quite good. So maybe I'll dip into that this week.
Are you saying you're going to watch Manos within the next week? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. I said maybe.
Because if I remember correctly, you said you were going to watch Ninja 3. But that didn't happen.
What's that streaming on?
Tubi?
I pay for 17 streaming services, and I'm not going to go on Tubi right now.
It makes me sick.
Wow.
Sorry.
Okay? Tubi Army, rise up right now.
Let them. It's like 3 of them.
Now, Proto, I saw something on IG that you were starting a Cronenberg movie. Are you ready to reveal what movie you started watching that was directed by David Cronenberg? We're ready now.
That may have been ill-advised. I have not finished this movie yet. I only started it. It was late at night. I went against better judgment. I shouldn't have started. I only watched like the first 20 minutes. I plan on finishing it. I like that. That's what I'm watching next. It's in the hop. It's it's in the lane. It's going to be watched. So I'll fill you in once it's completed. Tune in next week.
Is it a very sexy Cronenberg movie? Could you describe it as very sexy? No? Okay.
Sexy? No, not in the first 20 minutes.
Dana, what about you? Did you watch anything?
I did. I watched 2 movies this week. One that really sucked, and we'll talk about it real quick. I was still vibing off of our Indiana Jones month, and I was I came across a list while we were a couple weeks back with a bunch of movies adjacent to Indiana Jones, adventure, treasure hunting, etc. And Romancing the Stone was on there, a Zemeckis Indiana Jones film with Michael Douglas, and I don't remember who the female lead was. I could click on it, but I'm not going to. Dana DeVito's in it, and
King.
It's absolutely garbage. I gave it 2.5 stars because it's my own fault for watching it. But then I was like, damn, there's a second one and I kind of wanted to watch the second one because of how bad the first one was. It's just not good. It's not good at all. I couldn't get over how bad it was.
Yeah, Marcy's pointing out Kathleen Turner is in it. I remember I did the same thing, and I love Kathleen Turner. And Amanda and I started watching that maybe last year. We shut it off, I think, after like 5 or 10 minutes.
It's hard. It's a hard watch. And I just went back to work and let it keep playing.
But what is it? Is it the story? Is it the action?
It's the story. It's kind of stupid. The performances are bad. Michael Douglas kind of sucks as a romantic lead as well. It just felt like phoned in. Like we're trying to make. It's weird because it's Robert Zemeckis, but
Right.
I don't think he should be making like an adventure movie like this. Like go back to what you're good at.
Yeah, to me,
But then he made a second one, so like I don't understand that there was like a hype around this enough to make two.
Michael Douglas belongs in a suit. Like, yeah, I can't imagine him
Right.
Oh, yeah.
as like an
Like
action hero.
he walks his intro. He walks down a hillside, pretty much dressed like Crocodile Dundee without the hat. He's got like a leather vest, t-shirt. He just not pulling off this look at all.
You need Gordon Gekko Douglas or his character from Basic Instinct. If I had to, I mean, you remember me talking about that sex scene that those
We
two
remember.
had with Sharon
The
Stone?
sex. The sex those two had in that sex scene.
It was
A lot of
it was
sex.
scandalous
Mhm.
for that film, and that's
Sex.
out in 4K right now, in a disc. And I'll tell you what, it's going for like $100 on eBay right now.
It's a lot of
for
4K.
sex.
I'm just putting it out there. Anything else?
Yes. Last night kind of had a official villager meetup
Thanks for the invite.
with two villagers, Junkie Penguin and Andy from the Discord. We all live in Orlando. We met up to watch F9, Fast and Furious 9,
Whoa.
IMAX at my old stomping ground where I watched the first Fast and the Furious 20-ish years ago after high school. So we watched it, had a great time, a lot of fun, gave it 4 stars, exactly what I thought it was going to be for a Fast and Furious movie. So had a good time. It was a lot of fun. I'm actually in the middle of watching a movie right now that I won't say what it is. I've only stopped it because it got late at night, but it has the potential of making my top 4.
What?
It's I'll probably finish it tomorrow night, not tonight. But this movie I'm watching right now, I'm really vibing with it.
Is
quite
Kirk
well.
Douglas in it?
He is not.
Jewel
Roy Schneider
Denial
in it?
entering your top 4 right
Roy Schneider's not in it either.
Real quick, we talked about Letterboxd, the infamous proto Lawrence of Arabia no star rating. We love using Letterboxd, and every week we give out a free year of Letterboxd Pro for anyone that shares our show on social media. You can get a free year, no ads, and you're able to sort by where movies are streaming. You can get some really cool stats at the end of the year sent to you. So this week's winner for a free year of Letterboxd Pro is A.K. Donnelly, Anthony King on Twitter.
King.
He did it.
AK.
Host to the Cult Movies podcast.
Oh, nice.
Not listen to it. It's not a, not plugging it. I'm just saying it exists. Maybe it's the best podcast you've ever heard.
Maybe we should ask them for their definition of a cult movie.
You know, that's not a bad idea.
Because we've struggled.
We have struggled, and if you want to upgrade to Letterboxd Pro or patron status and you didn't win the free year, you can do so at 70mmpod.com. Get 20% off. I watched this week. I think last week I said I was going to watch A Fantastic Woman, and I did watch A Fantastic Woman.
Proud of you.
This is the movie with Daniela Vega as the lead, and Daniela Vega is a transgender actor who plays this character who is in love with an older man, and he dies in the beginning of the movie. And in this movie, she is confronted by, the transphobia society that thought that she maybe had something to do with his death. So she like is confronting who she thinks she is, who the world thinks she is. And I think Marcy said last week that this was nominated or potentially won Best Foreign Film Award a couple of years ago. And I enjoyed it. I wanted to go in and love it, high praise from all around, but I didn't love it. I liked it. I had some issues with potentially how they it's a really tough watch. I mean, there's so much adversity that Danielle's character goes through against just the society around her. And so I was actually curious what the actual transgender community thought of this movie, because this is like, this isn't the kind of movie that is just a dime a dozen. You don't have a transgender lead in a kind of picture that is nominated for these awards. So it did get some criticisms from the community that it was just kind of like a superficial presentation of how the transgender community views themselves. So I tried to keep that in mind as I watched it, because I mean, you get like a regular non-transgender, cisgender director telling that story, and it can kind of have that potential negative impact on the community. So I highly recommend watching it, and I definitely learned a lot by seeking out other reviews on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I thought that was cool that you shared all these different reviews of the movie in your review. Did you feel like they had just like a better, like a better understanding of like what this movie entails and like could speak more to it?
Yeah, one of the problems I had with it was I didn't learn what I wanted. Like I didn't learn enough from Daniela. Like Daniela is confronted by just like the scum of the earth, and you don't like get an insight into who the character is. You like learn more about the character just from how people treat her so terribly. And like I wanted more. Like I want to know what's happening in your mind. I just don't want you like walking by a mirror every 5 minutes and like looking at yourself and that being the exposition of being trans. Like I wanted more like depth. And I did see that in a lot of the reviews too. Plus also like a lot of people thought it was just kind of like almost like grief porn. Like there's more to the community than just kind of overt negativity about who I am and how I view myself. So still recommend to kind of watch it and educate yourself like I try to do. The other thing I wanted to talk about, let's see, I watched one other movie. I watched I, Tonya for the first time finally.
Interesting.
Sometimes I read when Danny says that as like an insult or it's positive, interesting. But I watched it because I was lucky enough to be asked to be a co-host on the Letterboxd Show Season 2, which hopefully everyone has checked out by now. And the format of that show is we'll be interviewing Letterboxd members about their top 4, about their favorite movies on Letterboxd. And I, Tonya was our first guests in their top 4. Demi Adejuyigbe. So I loved I, Tonya. I thought it was great. And I think Proto, you watched that and talked about it on this show, and I think that you might have given that 5 stars, at least 4.
Yeah, I think I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, that movie, so interesting, so compelling, so many characters to hate and be like annoyed by. Remember that? I think it was Kevin, that guy Kevin.
Oh my God.
What a character. God.
This guy is a pile of crap, but he was so hilarious during the movie.
Yeah, I mean, poor Tonya. I mean, it's just like one of those movies where it's just so entertaining and fascinating that it's worth watching.
Danny, have you seen I, Tonya?
No, sir, I have not.
It's time.
Maybe that's the movie Danny's finishing that's going to be added to his top 4.
Wow.
No, sir.
All right,
maybe I'll watch it.
We have to get into Lawrence of Arabia. It's time that we're rapidly running out of tape. This is a 4-hour movie, and this is Proto's pick for this month. No theme, Freedom Month, call it whatever you want. You don't have to. You're not bound by any kind of rules this month. And this was your desired end for the lean journey that we do in the VHS Village. Are you ready to walk us through the sands of our ends?
Yes, I am. A long time ago, in a land far, far away, there was a desert that no man owned and few called home. Then, with a world at war, a foreigner journeyed to meet Prince Faisal, unite the tribes, and drive out the Turks. Like a shard of glass, the foreigner shimmered upon the desert's horizon. He did what could not be done. He crossed the Nafud Desert, pursued death, and overcame it, and forever will be known not as an Englishman, but as Lawrence of Arabia.
I know the music's playing right now. Just let it play a little longer, Matt.
Let it ride. David Lean does it again. He's back.
Does he ever miss?
What will he do next?
Does he ever miss? The movie that is on every list. This is on AFI. That's a list, I think. It's probably in the Library of Congress. Greatest movie ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Quote unquote.
Most influential movie ever made. David Lean. Danny, do you remember hearing about this movie growing up?
Actually, no. I don't remember the first time hearing about this film. And I think it wasn't until former disgraced producer Ian kind of he posted about it in Discord or his Letterboxd review, bragging about watching it in one sitting, et cetera, the typical Ian review. And then I was just kind of like, I've heard it talked about, I've heard it referenced, but it was never on my watch list. It's a long movie. The only thing that I loved about Lawrence coming into any of this would have been the poster. I think it has an absolute incredible poster. The art on that's gorgeous. That was it for me, for Lawrence. I didn't even know he was a real person. Mm-hmm. Didn't even know this was based off of loosely his book, whatever it's called, The 7 Pillars of Wisdom. So, yeah.
Can I just say real quick too, Danny's art for this episode that you're seeing in your podcast app and on our IG, that's top tier. That is maybe one of the most top tier things you've done.
Oh, thank you.
Ever. So good. Pardo, what was your vibe growing up with this movie?
Yeah, I don't think I knew about this movie. It's not something, my dad would have talked about or, had me sit down and watch. Yeah, I don't think it was until I was like on my own looking into movies that, you come across, you Google, greatest movies of all time. And, there it is, Lawrence of Arabia. But then it was like, when you sit down to watch a movie, are you going to watch a 4-hour movie or any other movie? And up until this point, it was any other movie. Like it's just like to have that moment where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to devote this time. It just never seems like a good opportunity, especially if you think like, well, what if I don't like it? What if it's just an old movie that old people like because they saw it when they were younger. So I always just put it off. I knew I'd watch it eventually, like I'd carve out some time, but not when I was younger.
I think even when you think of these epics, these two VHS, I always heard about Ben-Hur and 10 Commandments talked about more than this, at least in the circles where I was. I never, when these like epic movies, no one really talked about Lawrence around me to even know about it.
I can kind of understand that now after watching it, where Middle East characters, it seems like it's less mainstream than the other two movies.
Yeah.
And just the plot in general.
Yeah. Well, like even what Danny said about, watching it, I didn't know if he was a real person or not. I was like, wait, is this based on a true story? Because, the way it's set up, you assume well, as I'm watching, I'm like, wait, this has to be based on an actual person. But before that, I had no idea. I had no idea if this was a real person or not.
First note on my list, and I feel like it'll be on all our lists. Everyone just sit down, calm down real quick. Okay.
Here we go.
The
Let's get it out of the
official
way.
television of 70 millimeter, the TCL Series 5. The 4K of this movie is insane. This might be the best looking movie I've ever seen with my own two eyes. Please, God. I mean, back me up here, Danny, right?
I 100% agree with you. I remember there were points where I was, and this was my first viewing of this film, but I had to stop a couple times and not rewind, but I guess, go back a bit because I had to see it again. I didn't want to wait till 4 hours down the road to come back to look at these amazing shots in 4K. I could not believe what I was looking at. And we're watching the stream from Tubi. I can't imagine if there's any better, or not Tubi, Vudu. I can't imagine if there's
the disc.
if it could look better on disc.
And the disc, we said, I think off air.
It's $1
for the
billion.
uncut episode, the 4K UHD disc is only available in some kind of weird Columbia box set.
Yeah.
Columbia, wake
it's like
up.
$1,000 on Amazon or eBay.
It's stupid.
I couldn't get over it. I could not get over some of these shots.
Yeah.
Even the faces, like even close-ups of the faces, especially Alec Guinness. You could just scrape the makeup off the screen. That's how close it looked.
Yeah, the beginning of this movie, when he is on the motorcycle and he's riding around, the grass was like so green. I was like, what am I watching right now? Like the colors were so vibrant. And that's not even like a top 20 moment in this movie. It was just like the beginning. I was so shocked at how good the grass looked. And then, the rest of the movie was just, there's so many amazing shots in this. But it far and above anything else that I've seen in 4K, easily.
Yeah. J Carp says we can thank Spielberg and Scorsese's OG restoration for work for this. I know that there was I think I saw in a video earlier that they worked with the company to, enhance it. And I mean, I can't stress it enough. Like when you go into Best Buy and you're standing in front of like a $4,000 TV and they're playing any kind of BS that'll show you 4K or whatever. I mean, that's what I'm talking about here. That is like, I don't have a $2,000 TV. I have a $400 TV and it's that good. There was a scene that I wrote down where he's holding when he goes like nutso later in the movie and he has that knife. His arm is on the thing. The knife is bloody. He's bloody. I'm like tearing up right now. I was it's like it's like I was on set watching this stupid.
Oh, my chest.
Holy cow.
I watched the 1 hour making of documentary and they get into the restoration. And apparently when this hit cinemas, it was edited so much for time. A lot was cut out. And when they talked about doing a restore with all the original film, I forget the one of the executive producers, she was like, it's not possible because it's so old. They don't know where it's at. They don't know how to have this film. And they found one copy of it still on film, still usable visually, but the audio was bad on it. So Peter O'Toole, Omar, they came back and redubbed for the restoration. And there's a shot of they're projecting it on a wall and Peter is like face to face on this massive screen and he's watching his lips to match his voice up with his lips from years ago. He's so old now, but his voice still sounded the same. So the restoration we have has new dubs, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy.
That is insane.
Anyway, let's start talking about the movie.
What's on your list for Lawrence of Arabia?
So going into this, I had no, as it starts to roll, I have no idea what this movie's about. I just basically know that there's a British guy who somehow ends up in Arabia. And in my mind, I thought, oh, maybe he is assigned there for like 10, 20 years. And over that time acclimates to the environment and becomes, one of them. Like that's what I was kind of expecting, not knowing what happens. But that's not it at all. So I was completely blindsided by this character. And is Lawrence one of the strangest characters ever in a movie?
Yes.
The beginning of this, I don't even know what to make of this guy. He does this little match trick, and his voice, he is so soft-spoken, and just not the character that I was expecting at all. He's so enigmatic of just, who he is and like what his deal is and why he even gets this job and like what his angle is. It's easy to get absorbed into just like being fascinated by this character.
Michael George Hartley, this is a nasty, dark little room.
That's right.
We are not happy in it.
I am. It's better than a nasty, dark little trench.
And you're a big, noble fellow.
That's right.
To that extent, there's so many scenes with him doing things in the movie that I was like taken aback by. This is 1962, and his character is so different than what I would expect a 1962 mainstream movie to portray. So I actually was poking around. I'll read this quick quote from Roger Ebert's review that really made sense to me. So he says, there's a moment in the movie where O'Toole, dressed in the flowing white robes of a desert sheik, does a victory dance on top of a captured Turkish train, and he almost seems to be posing for fashion photos. This is a curious scene because it seems to flaunt gay stereotypes, and yet none of the other characters in the movie seem to notice, nor did they take much notice of the two young desert urchins that Lawrence takes under his protection. What Lean, Bolt, and O'Toole create is a sexually and socially unconventional man who is simply presented as what he is without labels or comment. And I think that's what's like struck me watching this. I've never, Peter O'Toole, I don't know how many movies I've seen Peter O'Toole in, but he's just not what I'm used to as like Jimmy Stewart in these movies or Cary Grant or, these men, like quote unquote men, they're just wearing suits. They're dazzling women left and right. It's just a totally different approach. And I really appreciated that.
It took me a while to warm up to Peter. I honestly don't think there's another movie I've seen with him in it. At least this age Peter. And his performance to me was I was honestly bored. I was not connecting with him. And I just was not understanding the story. And then I was just like, crap, this is 4 hours of this. Because when you look at any clip, any poster, any promo art for this film, it's him with a gun, with a sword. And I was expecting like Clint Eastwood in the desert, like going at it like this was like a leader, like a strong leader of an army, of a crew of military. And what we get from the get-go is someone who is map making. He does art. Like he's not at all what I was expecting.
He gives away his gun in the first 5 minutes.
Gives away his gun. Like he doesn't, he's just soft-spoken. He's really awkward. And I'm just like, oh gosh, I don't understand what is happening right now. Especially when he comes in and talks to the main sergeant, colonel, whatever. And he kind of undresses him. Like if you're going to be insubordinate, just leave or whatever. And it was just like such a shocking scene because he's like, this is just who I am. I'm like, oh goodness, what is happening right now?
How did he even get into the military? Like, there wasn't any other vocation that you might have wanted to do rather than join up with the military?
How was he a lieutenant?
Just straight up Mip and Max.
Yeah. But I think they don't really give you much background. They don't even give you like a line as to why he is given this assignment. But then as I thought about it, I was like, oh, he's making a map. Maybe he's the guy who's been like studying Arabia, because that would kind of make sense, because there's certain parts of the movie, even where he seemed to know all the customs. Like when he meets Prince Faisal, he's like sitting down in the proper way while there's the other guy there who's like trying to stretch his legs because he's so uncomfortable. Like at every turn, Lawrence is doing the right thing to fit in culturally. So I kind of assumed, oh, he must have been doing his homework to know how to fit in this environment, and that would make sense. Because of the way, he acts. It's not like someone would just know how to, the proper etiquette and how to communicate, with people in Arabia, and be able to speak to like what their desires are going to be and like what's important to them. Especially that scene with his guide where he gives him the gun. Like him giving the gun, he just like bought his friendship and allegiance forever. And you can tell like, oh, that was his motive in that moment, but he knew to do that. And I would think that he had done his homework to understand that rather than just like, this is just who he is.
Coffee Crusader says, I believe he went to the region on intelligence missions previously.
And it's funny because we get a picture of him real quick in his death. Like we see him on the motorcycle going fast, reckless, killing himself on motorcycle. And then the two men talking about him that are interviewed, and they describe a man that we don't see yet. When it finally cuts to the flashback, like we're not seeing this man that they were describing, which is very interesting. Yeah.
I actually thought, well, first off, the motorcycle scene, it totally took me out of it at the beginning because he's riding on this road and he looks like he's going over 60 miles per hour, but his hair is not moving at all when it's showing his face. I was like, okay, this isn't. Can we get a fan, David? And I didn't really like that at the start that they started it with his death and that you just knew that he died somewhere in England. But by the end of the movie, I loved it. So I felt like it kind of, at first I was like, this doesn't really work. But by the end, I thought it was brilliant.
One quick note about Peter O'Toole. If they were to make this movie today, I mean, Michael Fassbender, are they related in some way? I mean, because I could easily just see Fassbender in this movie as Lawrence, and it would just fit perfectly almost the way you could do it.
They could not make this film today, though. Budget-wise, it wouldn't even reach the level of, artistic ability of this film. Like, there's no way they could recreate this film.
Yeah, Marcy says Fassbender pretends to be him in Prometheus. That's like exactly the character I was thinking of.
Yeah, he actually does the match trick. He's like watching the movie and he does the trick.
Wait, is that real?
Yeah, in the movie, he's watching Lawrence of Arabia and he says the trick is not minding that it hurts. And then Fassbender repeats the line in the movie.
Well, what's the trick then?
The trick, William Potter, is not minding that it hurts.
The trick, William Potter, is not minding that it hurts.
What?
That's why I thought you had that in your review.
No, I don't remember that
the very
scene.
beginning of the movie, yeah.
I just remember Fassbender's character from these movies, and I was like, man, he is a lot like Lawrence of Arabia. So that is very strange. I'm chilled up right now.
Yeah, do you feel that?
You guys feel that?
Yeah, it's
cold.
I just saw an orb on Prono's microphone blown by. One of my next notes is Omar Sharif is legit in this movie. And he just has a certain swagger that is just so good in this movie. And as I was writing, I searched to make sure I had his name down right. He feels like a different generation's Oscar Isaac.
Oh, yes.
Like just kind of has this charisma that is undeniable and just exudes off of him on screen.
There's a great interview with him on the making of documentary, and he's talking about, he was saying at the time he was pretty popular where he was as an actor. And when he got the call to ask to be not interview, what's the right word? Try out for this role.
Mm-hmm.
And he almost turned it down. He was like, I don't do this. And he was saying that when he found out that it was David Lean, he said he had just finished watching Bridge on the River Kwai. And he was like, I'm just going to go and audition just to meet David Lean.
Nice.
And he said when he landed a plane in the desert where they were filming. And when he got off the plane, David walked up to him and literally took him from the plane straight to wardrobe and put a mustache on him and like basically was giving him the role on the spot. It was amazing to hear him talk about it.
Mm.
One of the most amazing intros to a character, him riding on the camel through the desert. And I mean, talking about an amazing shot.
Mm-hmm.
That the camel on the horizon in the desert, just as like a sliver of black, and then it coming forward and the guy just saying, Bedu. And it coming closer. And then when that guy pulls out his gun and Sharif just like blows him away while still riding the camel. Amazing. And then their whole interaction. Just what a scene.
Yeah. And that mirage shot is actually talked about quite a bit in a couple interviews where people were talking about their favorite shots of this film. And even Spielberg said that this is his favorite shot. And they talked about how hard it was to actually capture a mirage on camera because it's really a trick of the eye. And so there were so many things they were doing to make this shot work. And it was so impressive. Even watching it, I mean, the long one-shot take of this is incredible.
I mean, just talk about the desert in general. The shots of the desert. Visually, this movie is legit. Obviously, I mean, everyone says it is. It is. It looks amazing. There's a few scenes in here where Lawrence kind of goes through like a mental trial. He like freaks out, has to make a decision or whatever. There's one scene where he makes the trip he leaves for Sinai makes a decision in like a few seconds. It's like a 10-day trip.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine making a whiplash decision like that? You're living in a tent right now in the desert. I'm going to Sinai. I'm going now. I'm leaving. He just leaves. It's 10 days. You're going to even make sure you have what you need on this trip? Like, you're going to take a nap before you go? What time of day is it? It's just so bonkers, the decision making and the travel they had to do in this desert. I was getting really anxious thinking about it.
Yeah, and it's so alternative to what you think of him from the outside, because he seems like he should be this timid, guy who can't make a decision. But when push comes to shove, he's always ready with the decision, and he's always choosing the hardest possible thing. He chooses the impossible every single time in this movie. Mm-hmm. And it's so jarring to see this character do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was one of the main disconnects for me in this movie is I think my expectations were just so off, like you said, but his character is very different from what I'm used to in a mainstream movie. And then he starts to believe his own hype during the halfway point of this movie, and it really screws him up bad. And I don't know, that whole character journey for him of thinking he is kind of like a miracle, or he is this like huge leader that can lead and offer and grant freedom to this group of people in the Middle East, and then realize that like, actually, maybe I'm not. And then the whole political stuff at the end, I don't know. I actually had kind of like, I think Shantana posted, I was on the wiki every 5 minutes. I also kind of had to be like, okay, what's happening here? What is this insinuating?
It really, I'm with you, Matt. It's kind of a shocking, it's hard. This is not what I expected from this story arc. And it really peaks at intermission. I mean, we have this amazing growth of Lawrence's character, and in his story arc. And then post intermission, it is just a spiral. And I think that is when he's introduced to Bentley, who the journalist comes in, and he starts making him into this mythical type hero, war hero. And he starts buying into this story about himself for Americans. And I think that's when he starts spiraling down to this destructive path that he takes.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the movie really does have a different kind of arc where the peak really is at intermission. Mm-hmm. And like the first half is really like a rising action, and then the after that is really just like downward. And I wonder if they do that, you know, if Lean was trying, and of course I don't know the historical accuracy of this story at all. I'm kind of interested in reading, Lawrence's autobiography, and then other information about it, because I heard like he embellishes some of it. But if that's the case, that Lean was trying to be accurate, it does work, because it's not, it doesn't end happily. It's not like, Lawrence is the hero at the end of this, or things work out the way, there's no like pretty bow on the end of the story. It's really, after intermission, it's kind of just like a downward, like you said, a downward spiral to the end.
Should we talk about Alec? We have to, right?
We gotta talk about Alec. We talked about at the top of the show.
David Lean's golden boy,
the master of disguise himself. Here's my thing. We talked about other movies in the past few months that would be considered problematic. West Side Story came out in the kind of the same time frame, right? That was 60s, and that essentially had brownface for the one group of characters. And this movie, Prince Faisal, is played by Alec Guinness.
I think you are another of these desert-loving English. That is Stanhope, Gordon of Khartoum. No Arab loves the desert. We love water and green trees. There is nothing in the desert. No man needs nothing.
Mm-hmm. He's a white man, and also Anthony Quinn with maybe the worst makeup.
That fake nose.
I don't even want to say this is 4K's fault, because I saw some SD footage and that nose still looked like shit. Not even the right color. I mean, was the person colorblind? There is, some inappropriate, brown face, like the Middle East characters. The main ones. I mean, it's Alec Guinness. But this is just one of those things where I feel like nobody talks about. Like, where are the people complaining about this? And this is, I'm not calling anyone's review out or whatever. It's just that masterpiece. Alec Guinness is not Middle Eastern. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a different time or whatever, but come on, what's happening here? Let's put everyone on the same playing field and call out when we see it.
I found it very interesting because I have that initial shock of Alec doing brownface, and in us reviewing this in 2021, of course, this is the take we're going to have. But I watched the interview with Omar Sharif, and he talks about him meeting Alec, and he sat down and had tea or a dinner with Alec for 2 hours, just the two of them. And Alec was learning how to speak his his kind of accent in his English voice. And it was weird because he wasn't offended by it. And he praised Alec. And it was 40 years from now, what movies are we okay with that are happening now where they're going to be not okay? And so I wonder if it's really hard to come down on Alec or David for this, when it's just interesting to me on how, the goalposts move.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, definitely something of the time. But for me, we went on this Lean journey, and I had never seen Alec Guinness in anything other than Star Wars. So, we started with the, Bridge on the River Kwai, and he's an English officer in that, great. Then I watched Dr. Zhivago, and he's playing a Russian in that movie. He has a Russian name, but he has his normal English accent. So that was kind of jarring, but that was like, I guess it's just a choice they made not to have like Russian accents. Then I watched, Passage to India, and which is worse than this, where he plays an Indian man. It is just horrific. And then this on top of it. So yeah, it's just one of those, I guess, director-actor relationships where Alec Guinness was David Lean's guy and he's in all of his movies. But seeing them in succession like this and just never even hearing about it, to me, Alec Guinness, having now watched all these movies, I don't think he's an amazing actor. He's like serviceable. He's good, I guess, but he's not amazing in any way. So like, and so to see him in these roles and having never heard, I just felt so blindsided by this, that he has this part, and it's a large role. He's like, top 5 characters in this movie. He has a lot of scenes. So the fact that I never heard about this, but I don't know, it is a 4-hour movie. So maybe in that regard, it's just not a movie that a lot of people have seen,
it could be.
I'm not sure, but
is Alec Guinness the Scarlett Johansson of his day? The last thing I'll say, we don't have to covered it already, but I did watch that Steven Spielberg behind the scenes video where he's talking about the restoration a little bit, and he does talk about how this is a different time, the 60s. If that video ever gets out widely, Steven's gonna be in some trouble. He was like calling out people for being too politically correct. Like if this movie, he was doing the Stephen voice. So if this movie came out today and reviewers were reviewing it, calling out the political incorrectness and trying to make a name for themselves, they'd be in trouble. And I was just like, whoa, Steven, slow down, my friend. I get you love it, but like,
he doesn't care.
Well, that's the words of somebody who's been burned by a journalist, a reviewer before, for sure.
Danny, what else is on your list for Lawrence of Arabia?
Holy cow. I don't think we have done half my list. The execution scene of the man that he went back to save.
Oh my God.
Was incredible. You have, the uncrossable desert scene is awesome. And he goes back and saves the man and the kids are excited. And then the gunshot happens at night when they've joined this troop and he stole from someone. And not David Lean, Lawrence chooses to be the one to execute this guy that he just saved from the desert. And then it gets to where, he shoots him like 7 times, but it gets to where he's back at the headquarters and he's talking about the life he took. And he keeps saying, I didn't enjoy it or something, or I did enjoy it or something affected him. But he was trying to say that the guy, the colonel kept interrupting him. And he's trying to come across and say, no, I liked killing this man. And I liked this taste of war that I've now tasted. And that it feels like that is the major turning point for his character when it comes to, the war aspect, because he said in the beginning on how much he doesn't like it or he's opposed to it or the killings and stuff like that. So the execution scene felt like a shock a little bit to the system.
I killed 2 people. 2 Arabs. One was a boy. That was yesterday. I led him into a quicksand. The other was a man. That was before Aqaba, anyway. I had to execute him with my pistol. There was something about it I didn't like.
Well, naturally.
No, something else.
I see. Well, that's all right. Let it be a warning.
No, something else.
What then?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is kind of like a reverse, because normally you'd have somebody who's maybe, gung-ho about violence and war and being a soldier and then gets disillusioned by it. With Lawrence, it's almost like the opposite, where he's like, he's a pacifist. He doesn't want to be, violent. He gives away his gun. And then by the end of it, he's like a bloodthirsty maniac, seeking to kill people.
Prisoners and yeah.
God, those scenes are really hard to watch. I mean, yeah, him saying he loved it. You have your main character kind of going off the rails. That's another thing I wasn't expecting. Like, this guy's messed up. What is going on here? And him just like, murdering people during that fight, and him, his boy, Omar, he's thrown him to the side. Like, he's a psychopath at certain points of this movie. During those fights, he's like totally red with rage and murderous rage. Very strange. Proto, what else is on your list?
Some of the moments. One of the scenes I loved is I can't remember which part it was. I think it's when they were with Anthony Quinn's tribe and they were like raiding the trains, maybe. But they come into a valley. And I think they're like almost maybe like back home, because then there's like women who are on like the mountainside, and they start like calling out to them. And then the men start singing a song in reply to them. The audio of that was just incredible, because it felt like it was all recorded right there, like in this valley, where they like this amazing echo back and forth between them. I love that.
I just remember when I cried talking about the 4K UHD quality of this movie?
I do want to come back to that, Matt. That's the scene where you talked about the scene where he's got the blood and the knife. It's such a brilliant callback to when he looks at his reflection the first time he's wearing those white robes. So he does the thing where he's spinning desert, puts the knife in the air, looks at his reflection of his kind of like his new self. And then he does the same thing after he's been murdering and killing. He's covered in blood and he has the knife wrapped around. He sees himself covered in blood, and it's just, he's not the same person again. Like, he's this killer, murderous, almost like a war criminal, it feels like, of a person. And that's such a brilliant, David Lean's like, that's just like brilliant storytelling.
You saying that, it made me think, I wonder if like what's trying to be communicated through that is that like Lawrence had this expectation of like who he is now as a man living in the desert with these robes, which is not truly what it's like to be, in the desert, a part of a tribe. And then when he is killing and, they find that brigade, and which is another amazing moment where they see the brigade of Turks going off into the desert, and the one man whose tribe was slaughtered by them, he just like sprints, his horse starts galloping towards them, and they cut him down, and then that's when they all run in, and then like that's Lawrence actually experiencing what it's like to be a part of a tribe. So it's like this, this glorification of it, and like in his mind what it's like, but then there's like the reality of it later on.
Crazy stuff.
There was another scene where he kind of like wakes up. I think maybe the scene where he realizes he isn't, the savior he thought he was, is when he waltzes into the town with Omar. And first of all, he almost gets hit by a car. And I thought that was like, oh my God, that looked dangerous. But like 1 inch, he would have gotten hit by that car. But he gets kidnapped and kind of interrogated and tortured. And he's a changed man after this moment. And I just remember when I was watching it, this one character felt like it was like very Deliverance-ish. Like he was like kind of licking his lips when they were tying Lawrence down. I was like, this is a weird scene. Apparently in the wiki and maybe in his book, he says that he was sexually assaulted during this moment. In which, they allude to as vague as they possibly can, I guess, for 1962. But yeah, very tough scene.
It's very Christ-like, that scene.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a guy who's stripped down and whipped, and not a word comes from his mouth. I mean, it's basically scripture from the Bible. Like the whole like white savior aspect of it there. Like, holy moly.
And him walking into the city where he feels like he's untouchable, and he does the like sidestep there's like a giant puddle.
Yes.
He does a sidestep with Omar there, but he steps back just to show himself walk on water. And it's just like, it's so obvious. Like it's just that savior mentality. And he feels like he'll just fly under the radar in the city. And he obviously doesn't.
Yeah, what a way to find out you are not the savior you thought you were.
Yeah.
Cripes. Danny, anything else you want to make sure we covered?
Oh man. Did we talk about the match cutscene? I guess we talked about it in the beginning. Cutting from him blowing out the match straight to the desert. I love that shot.
Oh yeah, that was amazing transition.
There's a great. I'm kind of mad at myself that I didn't take this David Lean journey with you, Proto. I wasn't feeling these movies. Besides River Choir.
5-star rating confirmed for Danny for Lawrence.
Listen, there's a shot that he does. This is one of the few shots that I went back and rewound because I wanted to see if I was watching it right. I don't remember where part of this movie was. It's after the journal starts taking photos of Lawrence and the papers are coming out, and there's a shot where Obi-Wan is at the table, and it's a shot of the table, and it's just a hat, and there's a reflection of Lawrence in his army outfit, no longer the robes, and Alec has like a line where he says something about this is the real man, and he throws on the table the picture of Lawrence in robes after fighting, and it's just a really interesting shot where the reflection of Lawrence is this one thing, but what is actually being said about David about Lawrence is another thing, and it was just a brilliant little piece of cinema that David Lean does. Oh, another one too. Sorry. He's walking out of one of the city offices, and he's realizing like things aren't the way what he wants them to be, or he's not who he is. And there's a giant painting behind him of a fallen god. And it's so like poignant. Like it's so great that it's behind him. It's just it looks like a god falling off of a chariot in the middle of a battle. And it's just like, it's obvious where this is heading for Lawrence's journey. And it's just this is very smart filmmaking. And I feel like a dullard for not realizing this sooner.
I was just thinking at the end of this I feel like I would get so much more out of it on a rewatch. I was like interested in rewatching it almost immediately because it's like 4 hours long, but it's so much to take in, and there's a lot of meat on the story. And then like even the ending, I don't know. Did you guys have any like thoughts about the ending of him just being in a Jeep, motorcycle passes him by, and that's really like the end of it? I mean,
honestly, I kind of had like a sigh of relief. I don't know if that's the right kind of feeling I had, but we know he dies. Like we know he's in the motorcycle accident, and the last shot of him or a motorcycle driving past him, it just felt like, I don't know, his destructive path doesn't actually end in the desert. It ends back at home, and he doesn't really recover from this. And I don't know. I kind of loved the ending. I thought it was it's so frustrating that this movie is 4 hours long because I want to do a rewatch so bad, but there's no time for it. It's frustrating because there's so much I want to watch. But man, I really enjoyed the ending.
I'm having trouble finding a rating for this movie. Everyone and their mother, 5 stars. I mean, what's according to V'ger, our supercomputer who loves movies, 4.5-star average rating from everyone in the village. A masterpiece in every sense of the word, H, host of Dune Pod. You heard it first. I don't know. Visually, this is a 5-star movie. I mean, I can't stress enough. The restoration of this movie, this maybe needs to be your first 4K purchase if you upgrade your TV. When you do it. It's disgusting. Okay? It's life-changing, the experience I had watching this. With that said, I don't know if I really loved the story itself. I'm Visually, production wise, yes, this is a historic film. Did I, really connect with Lawrence? I hate when people ask themselves a question and they answer it, which I just did. But did I connect with Lawrence? No.
Hate it.
Just being honest with everyone. I just have a hard time grappling. Like, I'll probably rewatch this just to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'm not sure. So I'm like teetering on 3.5 stars, 4 stars, just because of I just had such mixed emotions watching it. It wasn't what I was expecting at all. Alec Guinness is very strange in this era. And I think people need to probably have a discussion about it. Guy gets a pass for some reason. But that's just me. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it visually. I had an out-of-body experience. Danny?
I was thinking about it, and this falls into where I was at for Seven Samurai. I have this I know this is a 5-star film, but man, it took me a while to really connect with the story, to actually enjoy Peter O'Toole's performance. I thought it was hard to understand coming into it. And for a minute, I was not connecting with anything. The story was convoluted a little bit. And it wasn't what I was expecting, but by the end of this journey, I was really vibing, with it. I connected strongly with understanding, what they were doing with the Lawrence character, whether or not it's historically accurate. So I'm 5 stars.
Wow.
This is such a gorgeous film, and David Lean feels like a master with this film. And I think honestly, watching the hour making of this film also helped. Watching what they did and what they went through to make sure this. I mean, in this desert, what they were doing with trying to cover the cameras because it was melting the negatives, and having to put them in freezers just to keep them from it's fascinating that this got even made, and so I'm at 5 stars for this film right now.
Sheesh.
Like Danny said, the look of this movie, you can see why this is the one Lean is known for. Having watched a bunch of his movies now, this is just so far and above anything else he did. The scale, I've never seen shots like this in any other movie. It just captures so much, and it's so big. It's a sight to behold. And not to ask a question and to answer it, but was I shopping for white robes on Amazon?
The amount of DMs we got this week from Proto saying, me doing this, and it's just Lawrence in a white robe with his hands stretched. Like Proto of Arabia, I think was tossed around a few times.
It was covered.
I love this character. Oh my gosh, this is my jam. Okay. I love this story. Everything about it. Lawrence, I love it. I can't wait to rewatch this. It's a 5-star movie for me. It's just an incredible movie. And like Slim said, it's not what I expected, but in the best way, because I feel like it kind of turns expectations on its head in terms of, what you expect from a typical hero. It's something completely different. And it looks amazing while doing it.
Wow. 2 5 bangers. And then me. This will be one of those episodes where someone references, remember when Slim Good?
We're going to throw it back on you. We'll throw it back on you. Don't worry.
Next week is Danny's pick. Megan agrees with me. Thank you, Megan. Thank you. We can DM, the amount of DMs, Megan, I've gotten this week in support of my future thoughts on Lawrence of Arabia has just been through the roof. Next week is Danny's pick. We're going to reveal that in just a mere moments. We do have some letters and a voicemail to get to. And we actually got some fact checks came through for our Indiana Jones month that I'm going to read through. We got some comments on IG specifically saying, your experts were wrong. And here's the facts. So we're going to get to that in mere moments. Let's get to some of our VM/letters. Josh left a VM. Let's get to that VM.
Hey guys, Josh Carpenter here. New to the pod,
Welcome.
new to the village. And I just have to say, finding your show has been the gift that keeps on giving.
Thank you.
I'm completely addicted. I've been binge listening to it for the past 4 days straight. I've gone from The Abyss to The Shining.
My goodness.
Skipped a couple episodes here or there.
Inappropriate.
A couple films I looked at and went, oh, that's on my watch list. Others I just saw and went, oh, garbage. But what are you going to do? I'm excited to travel to Arabia here with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Bring some
I don't know
sunscreen.
why, but I always get this film confused with Hidalgo. Never seen it. Can't wait to check it out for the first time. So yeah,
Buckle up.
let's get into it.
Baby.
Take it easy.
Jay Carp, welcome. What a journey. Starting with that Abyss episode. God, remember the excitement we had after that episode?
My gosh.
We knew we were cooking with gas. Let me pull up my letter machine. Boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. Lawrence of Arabia letters comes from Ty. You can leave us a VM or a letter at 70mmpod.com. Hello, 70mm. First, I would like to thank you for Indiana Jones month. The episodes were fantastic and all the art was so good. Now, Proto, I'm speaking directly to you. Thank you so much for picking Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay.
Me and my grandpa used to watch this all the time when I was younger. Can I give you a reason why a little kid would sit through that movie? No. But my grandpa loved it, so I did too. This was actually the first time I watched it since my grandpa passed 4 years ago. Yes, I cried the whole time, but I loved watching it again. Proto, thank you for choosing this, and not only because it's a great movie, but also because for a few hours I was transported back to my childhood, sitting on my grandparents' floor playing with Legos while me and my grandpa watched this masterpiece. Love you guys, Ty.
Ty.
The
Amazing.
redemption journey that Proto has
you,
been on
Ty.
the last hour, from what transpired in our
He's
Hercules
back.
episode to now. Has this ever been done?
Yeah.
This is like the first intermission of Lawrence of Arabia. This is the reverse. We're going in reverse right now. Amazing letter. Thank you so much. I think we have one more letter. Hold on a second. It's from our heart and soul, Marcy. Subject line, lean journey. Hello, I'm not sure how I managed to watch Passage to India and Lawrence of Arabia back-to-back days. That's 390 minutes of David Lean cinema, bringing my lean journey to an end. The films selected for this journey have been on my list forever, and I'm so happy I finally got to see them. Thank you, Proto. This was an amazing experience. I'm going to keep going through the catalog of Lean with Summertime next. Excited to hear what the next journey is, while also completing the alien journey I missed. Thank you, Marcy.
Marcy, you are so welcome.
I'm not even caught up on the lean journey, to be honest, if I can be frank with everybody. I still have
I will say-
Chicago to watch.
As far as I know, Marcy is the only one who made it through the entire lean journey. Oh my gosh, a
Amazing.
tree just fell outside my house.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's a few houses away, but I just heard it. Or it was a huge branch. One
Is
or the other.
is anything getting electrocuted right now?
There's a house on fire.
Marcy's trying to break in.
Marcy is doing some witchcraft. She has a doll that she's poking with needles.
She's at the top of Isengard.
All right, let's see. So Throw Me the Whip on Instagram. You might be an Indiana Jones expert. He started listening to our Indiana Jones episodes, which we appreciate. And he gave us some feedback on some of the comments that were made on the show from our resident Jonesy expert for Indiana Jones. So I want to read some of those comments right now. This is for the Crusade episode specifically. Going to have to correct your ultimate Indiana Jones expert. I added a little twang to that sentence. You can't read that via text. While it's true that in the second and third and even fourth film, he does carry a Webley holster, he does not carry the Webley itself until Last Crusade, specifically a Webley government model with a bird's head grip. Often mistaken for a Webley MKVI, the government model returns in Crystal Skull. He goes on to say, contrary to what Jonesy said, in Temple of Doom, he carries a Colt police special. He also, for a few frames, insert shot of the gun falling out of the car, has a Smith & Wesson Model 10, carries two different Smith & Wessons 1917s in Raiders, named for their respective rental houses, and of course, the Browning High Power.
Excuse me.
God, Jonesy.
Any comments, Danny?
I just can't believe he got it so wrong that Jonesy would do this to us.
Feel embarrassed for the show?
Yeah. Should we
I'd
just
like to
delete those
apologize.
episodes?
I'm not going back to edit. I don't know. I might have to go back and put an apology on the episode. However,
Do we just cut Jonesy out of the ep entirely?
This is like Alec Guinness and Brownface all over again.
this is our Alec Guinness.
When you're
Brownface.
pretending to be someone you're not.
On the Crystal Skull episode, Throw Me the Whip, listened, had a great time, did have some feedback on a letter that we got. It might have even been from Shantana about Indy 5 taking place in the 70s. Is Shantana still with us, or is he hard at work at Photoshop?
Oh, gosh.
That's misinformed.
It's over for you, Sean.
There has never been a one-to-one correlation between Indy's age and Harrison's. The film is not taking place in the 70s. It will take place in the 60s. So this might be some inside information here that hasn't been
This is
divulged.
spoilers.
He's got some kind of connections that we don't have. Already confirmed by James Mangold on his Twitter. Thrilled. Very excited to see how... I asked, what did you think about the de-aging rumors, the whispers? He says, very excited to see how far the technology has come last couple of years. I think the stuff in the 60s will have mild de-aging. Of course, there's also scenes being filmed in Nazi-occupied France somewhere around 1940 to 1944, so we'll see something more dramatic there. So he is alluding to there being extensive scenes taking place 20 years previous that will be heavily de-aged. Danny, your thoughts?
All right, Danny's a wimp. I'm going to say this is going to be the most heavily de-aged movie to date.
Wow. He's alluding to the fact that there's no Nazi exegol and that it's a flashback to the 40s. So maybe he's not fighting Nazis.
What's even the point?
We still have to get to Danny's pick. Thank you, Throw Me the Whip, for your feedback on our episode. We will share that with Jonesy. Danny, it's time. What's happening next week?
So I've had this film kind of in my brain for a bit, and then we got to our Ladies Month, and there was an actor that reminded me of a film that I wanted to watch again. I'm bringing it down a notch, guys, okay? From Lawrence of Arabia. Look at me. Don't look at the Discord. Okay? This came out in 1996.
Oh.
And it has our boy, Bill Paxton. And we're going to go through the Twister journey.
Oh my God.
It's streaming on HBO Max.
Okay.
And I have been dying to watch Twister for a while now. We talked about theme parks and we brought maps into our discussion in Discord. And I saw the Twister ride show at Universal again. I'm like, man, I want to revisit this movie. It's got Philip Seymour Hoffman in it. Helen Hunt is in it. Carrie Elwes. It's just... Alan Ruck is in it. I love Alan. So I just been dying to watch this film again. It has one of my favorite trucks in cinema history. And so I just wanted to watch this film again. I wanted to have fun. So we're doing it.
Sheesh.
How about the scene?
Don't
save it for the
save
show.
it. Save it, babe. Save it.
Wow, I was
HBO
not
Max
expecting
streaming. You probably have it on VHS or DVD. This movie was hot stuff. So
This is very strange. Are you ready to get chilled up right now?
Tell
Because
me.
I was getting a haircut at Sun's today during
Excuse
lunch.
me. Okay.
He had Kelly Clarkson's show on, as he always does. And Helen Hunt was the guest today. And she was
Excuse
talking
me.
about Twister.
No.
This continues to happen on this show.
I'm so excited. We were talking
I
about
see
trailers.
Twister, trending this week, I'm gonna lose it.
Danny's gonna find out and he's gonna DM us, hey, Twister came out 50 years ago this week.
Today. 50 years ago.
Wow. Amazing pick. Thank you to everyone for joining us on the lean journey in our VHS Village Discord. You can join us at 70mmpod.com. $4 a month. Join our Patreon. We'll see you in there. Prado was hard at work thinking of his next journey. He's not ready to announce that yet. I think it'll be at some point in August. So if you want to get in while the getting's good, you can. Prado, can you take us into the twirling winds of next week?
A major theme in Lawrence of Arabia is identity. And I don't have the exact quote, but they say it a bunch of times where Lawrence is talking about who you are and who you can be. And he says it something along the lines of like, you can be anyone. And I've said that before on this show, but I love that philosophy that, tomorrow is a new day and you can wake up tomorrow and you can be anyone you want to be. You can move to the desert tomorrow and live out your days in the cleanest environment in the world. What a great line that was. It's clean, the desert. So just remember that, be who you want to be.
Do you want to tell him, Matt?
No. Next week, Helen Hunt.
You guys cut out too.
Prado might be in a Twister right now. He's twirling around
happening.
like it's the Wizard of Oz. $70mm is a tape deck production featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, created by Predalexis. Producer Emeritus, Dale_A. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. You can support our Patreon for access to the VHS Village Discord to talk movies with new friends, access to exclusive episodes, discounts on merch, and a physical membership card mailed to you. To check out other Tape Deck podcasts, find the link in the episode notes. And if you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to pro or patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links at 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.
This is a Tape Deck podcast.